Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about how to bring out amazing detail in a single raw file using Luminar AI and Aurora HDR. Hello and welcome to Luminar Coffee Break. Let's go ahead and jump in and get started. I'm Angela Andrieux, and today we're talking about doing a single image HDR. Up on my screen I have a beautiful photo from Elia Locardi, and it is one of those images where maybe it would have been better to bracket this image, but we have a single raw file, and you can see we have a lot of really bright highlights and some really great detail in shadow and highlight areas using just a single raw image. So what I'm going to do, now this command only works on Mac. If you're on Windows, what you'll need to do is go down to Show in Explorer. It'll find it on your hard drive, and then all you need to do from there is right click and open that up in Aurora HDR. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and go to Open in Aurora HDR, and we'll go ahead and launch this up, and it'll take it right over to Aurora. I want to say hello to Joe, Joseph, Pat, Russ. Good to see everybody today. All right, so I'm going to go into my settings and turn on my chromatic aberration and just go ahead and click Create HDR. And this is going to run some under the hood magic that pulls out a lot of detail in the shadows and highlight areas. And here in a moment, once it loads, we'll see that just by opening it up in this software, it's made a really, really remarkable difference. It does take a moment to load up, and this is a very large raw file. So sometimes that can take a little bit of time, but I promise you it is worth the wait. We're getting there, it's getting close, almost there. And if you guys have questions as we're going along, make sure you pop those into the chat or into the comments below. I'll do my best to get those answered for you as we go through. This is taking a little bit of time, so while we're waiting, let me take a look here at the chat. And Jerry says, could I right click to open a series of bracketed images from Luminar? Jerry, yes you can if you're on a Mac. On Windows, you're going to need to go to that Show in Explorer, and then you'll select your bracketed images in Explorer and then drag them onto the Aurora HDR icon. All right, I think we're almost there. It's taking its sweet time. Sometimes I have too much stuff going on in the background that it takes a little while to load, but I think we're almost there. Keep those questions coming and let me know what you guys think as we're going through this edit. All right, almost there. Come on, taking its time. There we go. Okay, so you can see we went from our original image, which was really quite dark, and it's brightened it up quite a bit. So let's just take a look really quick here at our before and our after, and this is just by opening it up in Aurora HDR. So what I want to do from here is I want to go to my highlights and I want to tone those down a bit, and you'll see how much detail that's bringing back. It's even bringing back a little bit of blue sky up here, which I didn't even know was there. From there, we go ahead and let's bring down our whites a little bit more. We'll bring up the blacks to add a bit of contrast. And then we'll jump down to our HDR Enhanced section and add some HDR Clarity. This adds some really nice mid-tone contrast and detail. That looks really great. Now, one thing that you often encounter with HDR is because we're pulling so much detail out of the highlights and so much detail out of the shadows, is we can end up with a little bit of a flat image. And this is where going back and adding some additional contrast can really make a difference. It's not a horrible thing to have some perfectly white whites and some really dark blacks, because that kind of contrast is what really makes it interesting and guides our eyes through the picture. So I'm going to bring up that contrast a little bit more, and then I might bring down my overall exposure just a little bit, and look how beautiful that is. We've brought out so much detail in this image, and it looks amazing compared to where we started. Just a few quick adjustments, and we went from here to here. It's really, really incredible. So I might actually even bring down my smart tone a little bit more. And I think that's about everything that I want to do inside of Aurora. In order to get this back over to Luminar AI, actually I'm going to bring that back up a little bit. What I'm going to do is go up to File and Export, and I'm going to save this back to that same folder where I found this image. So I'm here in my North Carolina image, or North Carolina folder. I'm going to save this as a ProPhoto TIFF 16-bit depth, 300 pixels per inch. So this is going to be a very, very large file you see here from the pixel dimensions. It is a huge file. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save, and that's going to take it right back over to that same folder. And now once this is done exporting, I can go back to Luminar AI, and this will be in that same folder where we found our original image. So we'll give that just a moment there to process. Like I said, it's a huge file. There we go. And now we can pop back over here to Luminar AI. Let me go ahead and hit the G key on my keyboard to go back to my grid view. And here we go. This one is loading up. We'll give it a moment there to render. And this will be our edited version here in Luminar AI. From here, we can go ahead and do a few more final quick edits. I'm going to jump over to my Edit tab. Now this image, it did have some blown out highlights up here, which did get a little bit muddy. And there's really not a whole lot interesting going on up here at the top anyway. So I think this is one of those images that could really benefit from a pretty generous crop. What I'm going to do is go to my tools and scroll up to Composition AI, and I'm going to change this to a 16:9 aspect ratio. Right about there. And then just drag that down, and that also places that waterfall right there on our rule of thirds. I'll hit return on my keyboard to go ahead and commit that crop. And we can do a couple of other things here in Luminar AI just to finish off this image. We can always go to our Enhance AI and just do a little bit of automatic improvement there. That looks good. We'll add a nice big soft vignette. So we'll pull that amount down to -100. I'll adjust that size a little bit smaller. Go into my advanced settings. We'll add a little bit of inner light to brighten up the center of that vignette. Bit of feathering to make a nice big smooth transition. And then we'll grab our amount slider and then back that off to the point that that looks natural. So right about there, I think looks awesome. Now, if you want to take this up another notch, we can add some sun rays, and that is a fun thing to do. The key to adding sun rays is to make sure they look natural. So what I'm going to do is bring up that amount pretty significantly. Right now, they're not looking natural. And then we'll click on Place Sun Center. That'll give us this little dot here. And I'm going to move that off of the canvas up here to where the sun is probably naturally residing in the natural lighting of this image. Now we can go ahead and take that amount and back it off. And it just adds a little bit of extra glow up there at the top, which we can then go here to our warmth settings, warm that up, warm up those rays, and that just creates a really nice warm glow coming from the top of that image. We can adjust the placement of this a little bit, pull back on the amount, we pull back a little bit on the length of that, and the overall look we can adjust. And I think that looks absolutely beautiful. So let's take a look here at our before and after. And if we go back to our catalog, we can take a look at where we actually started, which was right here. So we went from this image over to Aurora, where we came up with this, and then we came back into Luminar, and we came to this final result. And we did that in just a few minutes. It's really amazing how powerful these two programs are when you use them together. So I highly encourage you to check out Aurora HDR if you haven't already. It's one of my favorite tools in my toolbox, and I think you guys would enjoy it too. Let me go ahead and do a quick look here at our chat and make sure that I've covered everything. Jeannie says she doesn't have any sound. Uh-oh, that's not good. Let me know, anybody else, if you're having trouble with sound. We'll take a look at that. Jerry says, amazing hidden feature of Aurora. That's great to know. And we are going to do a deep dive on export parameters one of these days. I don't have a date for you yet, but we'll work on getting that scheduled. I want to thank you guys all for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun sharing one of my favorite programs with you. If you like this episode, make sure you give us a big thumbs up here on YouTube. We always appreciate seeing that. And we'll see you at the next coffee break. Bye, everybody.